Episode 2, The Woman Who Carried a Village. Inside the thick bamboo walls of Umunachi, Nneoma stood in the council hut, facing not just Ado the warrior leader, but the circle of seven women who had earned their place through sweat and fire. They were archers, trackers, fighters, seers, and one of them, Omalika, had once defeated a wild hyena with only a cooking spoon and a basket. They listened as Nneoma narrated the threats encroaching on Amakashi. How farms were abandoned at dusk, how children no longer fetched water without an elder's watch, how fear had begun to age even the youngest faces. Ado rose. If Amakashi falls, so will we. These cowards sweeping through our lands with weapons and lust must be stopped. But we are women, Omalika said, testing Nneoma. Do we fight wars while the men drink palm wine under raffia roofs? Nneoma did not blink. We are not women or men. We are the last defenders of peace. I ask not for pity. I ask for unity. For a long while, no one spoke. Then Ado picked up her staff and struck the ground 3 times. Prepare the warriors. We march at dawn. A fire lit inside Nneoma. She, who had once feared her own shadow after Obina died, now stood beside women with eyes like flint and hands raw from building and breaking. She was given armor stitched with lion fur and a blade shaped like a crescent moon. It wasn't what she had dreamt of, but it was purpose, and that was better. At sunrise, a dozen warriors and hunters, both women and men, followed Nneoma back across the hills toward Amakashi. But trouble found them before they reached home. At Njoku's crossing, near the shrine of Amedioho, their convoy was ambushed by scouts of the militia. It was an ambush that cracked the sky. Arrows flew like angry birds. Spears kissed tree trunks. One of the warriors, young Ekozona, fell with a scream. But Ado roared like a lioness. Protect the messenger, she shouted, pointing to Nneoma. Nneoma refused to hide. With her staff, she cracked the knee of one attacker, spun, and pushed another into a ditch. It was her first real fight. And in that moment, she realized, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to bow to it. After a fierce battle, the Umunachi warriors pushed the attackers back into the bushes. But it came at a cost. 3 warriors lay bleeding. The group rested by a small stream, tying wounds with cloth torn from wrappers. Ado looked at Nneoma, now smeared with blood and dirt. You are not just brave, Nneoma. You are dangerous. I respect that. By the time they reached Amakashi, it was evening. The villagers ran out, shocked at the sight, warriors with blades, women in armor, and Nneoma at the center of it all, looking like a general carved out of ancient stone. The elders gathered again, but this time, not to dismiss her. We never believed you'd return, said Elder Ugochukwu, lowering his gaze. You have done what no man here dared. Then let the men rise, Nneoma replied. The real fight begins tomorrow. That night, the village prepared. Traps were laid. The hunters brought poisoned arrows. Mothers sharpened sticks and stirred herbs to cause blindness. Even the masquerade priest blessed the compound boundaries with ashes from 7-year-old wood. And when the militia came just as the moon was peaking, the people of Amakashi were ready. The first scream came from the western border, where hidden spears sprung from the earth. Then from the east, the warriors of Umunachi, led by Ado, struck like a thunderclap. Nneoma, holding a torch in one hand and a blade in the other, led the youth of Amakashi into the fray. They fought like ancestors were watching. They fought like losing meant losing everything. Nneoma faced the militia's captain, a tall, gaunt man with scars across his face and a blade curved like a snake's fang. He swung, fast and hard, but Nneoma ducked, roared, and stabbed him under the ribs. He staggered, dropped his weapon, and fell with a groan. The rest, seeing their leader fall, scattered like dry leaves in the harmattan wind. By dawn, the ground was still. Smoke rose from burnt grass, and birds returned to the trees. Victory had never tasted so bittersweet. Some lives were lost. Tears were shed. But Amakashi was free. A week later, the entire village gathered under the iroko tree. Drums beat low and steady. Nneoma stood before the people, dressed in white, her staff shining with cowries. Elder Ugochukwu raised his hand. Let it be known that from this day, Nneoma is no longer just the widow of Obina. She is Egunwani Amakashi, the lioness of Amakashi. Cheers erupted. Ululations filled the air. Women danced. Children ran around with palm leaves. Even the trees seemed to sway with joy. But Nneoma, in her heart, knew the true victory. It wasn't just the battle. It was proving that one woman, armed with nothing but her heart, could shift the course of history. She walked home that night alone, her shadow long behind her. She passed the forge, cold and dusty. Gently, she picked up a hammer and struck the anvil once. Clang! The sound echoed, deep and bold. A new fire had begun.